Number 6. Heidi learns to read. The following day after dinner, Heidi's grandmother, Frau Sesselmann, said to Fraulein Rottenmeier, the housekeeper, "Go and bring Heidi to my room. I have some nice books with me that I would like to give her." "But that's just it," replied Fraulein Rottenmeier, throwing up her hands in despair. "Of what use are books to her? She does not even know the alphabet yet. It is quite impossible to teach her anything. The tutor will tell you himself. If he didn't have the patience of a saint, he would have given up trying to teach her long ago." "Well, that is strange. The child does not strike me as being stupid," said Frau Sessimann shortly. "Now go and fetch her. She can look at the pictures for the time being." Fräulein Rottenmeier was about to say more, but Frau Sesselmann had turned away and gone quickly towards her own room. She was very surprised at Frau Rottenmeier's remarks and was determined to find out more about the whole matter. Perhaps the tutor would help, although his conversation was so roundabout and lengthy that she felt that it might be difficult to get to the root of the problem. Heidi was greatly delighted with the beautiful colored pictures in the books which her grandmother had brought. Suddenly, she cried aloud as she turned a page, and when the old lady looked at the child, she saw that tears were streaming down her cheeks. She looked at once at the picture. It depicted a beautiful green pasture with all sorts of animals grazing. In the midst, a shepherd leaned upon his stick and looked happily at his flock. Everything was bathed in a golden light, for the sun was just setting on the horizon. Grandmother took Heidi's hand gently. "Don't cry, dear child, don't cry. The picture has reminded you of something, perhaps. But look, there is a beautiful story about it, and I'm going to tell you about it tonight. There are many beautiful stories in this book which can be read over and over again. Come now, we must have a chat. So dry your tears and stand in front of me so that I can look at you. That's right, now we are happy again." Heidi tried very hard to stop sobbing, and when at last she succeeded, the grandmother said, "Now I want you to tell me something, child. How are you getting on with your lessons? Do you like them? Are you doing well?" "Oh no," replied Heidi, sighing. "But I knew it would be impossible." "What is impossible, Heidi? What do you mean?" "To learn to read. It is so difficult." "You don't say so. And who told you this?" "Peter did, and he knows, for he has tried but can't learn. It is too difficult." "What a boy Peter must be then. But listen to me, Heidi. We must never believe what the Peters say, but try for ourselves. I am sure you have never paid enough attention to your lesson or looked properly at the letters." "It's of no use," said Heidi with a great sigh of resignation. "Now, Heidi, listen to what I have to say. You have not been able to read because you believed what Peter said. Now you must believe what I say when I tell you that you can learn to read like many other children who are like you and not like Peter. First, you must know what happens when you are able to read. Do you see the shepherd on the beautiful green pasture? Well, as soon as you can read, you shall have the book for your very own, and then you will know the whole story just as if someone were to tell it to you. What the shepherd did with his sheep and goats, and the wonderful things that happened to him. Wouldn't you like to know all that, Heidi?" Heidi had been listening with keen attention and now exclaimed with sparkling eyes, "Oh, if only I could read already!" "You will learn in no time. I can see that, Heidi. But now we must go to Clara. Come, we will take the books with us. Grandmother took Heidi's hand and they went together into the study. From the day Heidi had tried to go home and Fräulein Rottenmeier had scolded her for being so wicked and ungrateful, a change had come over the child. She now knew that she could not go home whenever she liked, but that she had to stay in Frankfurt for a long time, maybe forever. There was nobody to whom she could say how homesick she was, for she could not face giving the grandmother, who was so kind to her, cause to be angry, as Fräulein Rottenmeier had been. She could no longer eat and grew thin. She lay awake for long hours thinking of her life in the mountain. When at last she fell asleep, she dreamt of red summits and the sunshine and the flowers. When she woke in the morning, she wanted to run happily in the sun, but she soon realized that she was in the big bed in Frankfurt. Then Heidi would weep long and quietly, her head pressed into the pillow so that no one could hear. Heidi's unhappiness did not escape grandmother's notice. One day she asked her what the matter was. Heidi was afraid to tell her the truth. She did not want the kind grandmother to think she was an ungrateful child. So she said, "Please, I cannot tell you." "Could you tell Clara then?" "Oh no, I cannot tell anyone," said Heidi pitifully. "Then, little one, let me tell you what to do. When we are in difficulty and cannot speak about it to anybody, we must pray to God for help. That will lessen our pain." A sudden look of joy came into Heidi's eye. "May I tell him everything?" "Yes, Heidi, everything." It was about a week after this that the tutor met the grandmother and gave the glad news that Heidi had at last learned to read. He said it looked as though Heidi had learned to read overnight, unlike most beginners. Life is full of miracles. Frau Sessemann smiled. Now we must be glad the child has made a good beginning and hope for her future progress. The grandmother went down to the study to make sure of the good news. There, sure enough, was Heidi sitting beside Clara and reading aloud to her, evidently very much surprised herself and growing more and more delighted with the new world that has now opened to her, as the black letters grew alive and turned into men and things and exciting stories. The same evening, at the dinner table, Heidi found the large book with the beautiful pictures by her plate. When she looked questioningly at grandmother, the old lady nodded kindly to her and said, "Yes, it is yours now." "Mine? To keep always? Even when I go home?" asked Heidi, flushed with happiness. "Yes, of course, forever," grandmother assured her. "Tomorrow we will start to read it." Before she went to bed, Heidi looked at her book, and from that day on, her greatest pleasure was to read over and over again the stories which belonged to the beautiful pictures.